All right, and welcome into the first actual video in the series on these intercom concepts. I do want to say this message has been approved by all manufacturers. Not really. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I don't get paid by anybody. I just love this content. But it is appropriate for the major manufacturers. I do teach programming at the end of most of these videos, and it may be faced towards one manufacturer, but the content in the middle of the videos, the mindset, the concepts are universal. In this series, I am using this kind of a framework for the discussion of what we're doing. You can expect these topics out of every single video that we are covering. So we'll jump right into ports and the names of ports. As I was researching for this, it was kind of funny. These terms came up. Portal or porta, Latin for gate. Each port on this intercom is an opportunity to go in and out, or a gate. Also portus, to carry. The port carries the traffic from the matrix and the processing on the inside to the outside, or to the use or origin. So it carries. And then a place for loading or unloading. This is so neat. It is an opportunity, a place that is ripe for the loading and unloading. Because, well, the point is to get information into the matrix so it can be distributed to the appropriate places within the matrix, and then get it back out of the matrix to the people that are looking for the audio. I do want to say, I use a word that may not be intuitive. Fabric. We have talkers coming into the intercom on ports, and we have listeners going out on ports, and it's kind of an interwoven piece of transference material. It's the fabric. In a piece of fabric, threads that are going this way touch every single thread that is going this way. And together they make fabric. And so you might think about this in your video routers or your audio consoles. Once the input is into the console, I can use it for all these purposes. So let's get it in the console that it can be available. That's what I mean by fabric. So ports are the opportunity to get into the fabric or onto the fabric and then back off. Just easy as that. Other industries, I don't really know of any other words that are used other than this, and all of the major manufacturers do use this term, ports, for the inputs and outputs of the intercom. So the next thing is, where is this used? And I'm going to say, anything that comes into the intercom is going to come through a port. Anything that leaves is going to come through a port. So the primary use in a matrix intercom, you basically have inputs, key panels, and outputs, key panels. There is another loop in there when it's a key panel, and that is a data loop for the key panel to remote control the functions of the intercom. Basically, the key panel is going to say, when I ask to listen to something, it's going to say, hey, give me this person's audio, send it to this port, because the remote control run by the user was asking for it. Or push my audio to a user's ear because we're pushing to talk. So that input, output, and control loop all go through the port that is happening. So secondary uses, we have audio that comes in that is not a key panel. This could be like a microphone or a program source or something that comes into the intercom for the users to use, but it doesn't have key panel data with it. Other examples would be hot mics on the out. Hot mics would be coming in, or Fostexes going out. And then maybe the third use would be to hook intercoms to intercoms. So you could have trunk lines where the intercoms are exchanging traffic from one intercom to the other intercom. So everything is going to come into the intercom on a port, whether that's a 2-wire or a telephone, a 2-way radio, a key panel, or stuff goes out like Fostex or records for training purposes like comms records. SAs, stage announces, all of these things, if it comes in or comes out of the intercom, it's coming through a port. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this once because it may not be immediately obvious. In order to get onto the fabric, it is going to come through a port, and it may have come through a converter first. So like your 2-wire belt packs, there's not actually a 2-wire entrance into the intercom. The 2-wire goes through a converter and then goes into the port. And I'll show what I mean by that in a little bit with actual examples, but the matrix, the fabric, is always serviced in and out through these ports, place for unloading and loading of ships. So it's pretty neat, right? We're breaking this apart into smaller pieces so that we can rebuild it with understanding. So this is where this is used, and we're going to move on to how does this work for each person. I'm gonna say this is a little bit of a stretch to make this category in the outline work for us, because how does this work for each person? That's a question that's based around the user experience. What are the users going to experience? But honestly, this video is for intercom engineers that are planning the experience for their users, and these users do not know that they have ports. They do not know that they are entering the intercom fabric through a port. They are just sitting in front of their key panel, or they have their key panel on their belt pack, like a Romeo or a Free Speak or a Bolero, or they have their wired belt pack on their belt, like a 2-wire. And they don't really know that they are actually using ports. So there are 2 types of experiences, though, or ways that the ports are used in the intercom. One is data connected. They're going to be sending commands to the intercom and are going to ask the intercom to do things on their behalf, and their experience is tunable. And so they are able to make requests and have things pushed to their ear. And these would be key panels or telephone interfaces, digital belt packs, which is an RTS part name, Romeo, RTS wireless key panel, Bolero, wireless key panel for an artist intercom, Free Speak, wireless key panel for a matrix intercom, or there might be trunking in between 2 intercoms of the same brand, and there might be data connections going through, or those ports are coordinated with data. And that's good, but there is a whole nother world that is kind of the others. These are all in-brand connection. They will be, if it's an RTS intercom, it's an RTS key panel, or an RTS digital belt pack, or an RTS Romeo. If it's a Clearcom frame, matrix, intercom, it's going to be a Clearcom Free Speak key panel, Agent IC instance. These are fully connected. They have audio in, they have audio out, and they have a live data connection from the user, their interface, key panel, belt type key panel, soft panel. So they have audio in, audio out, and a control interface with that user interface. Okay, so these are ports, and these are fully utilized ports because they are audio in, audio out, and a control circuit. And that is using a port to its fullest and highest use. Now, there are other ways that we can use the ports that are not so fully interconnected. And these are ports that have no data. These are audio ins or audio outs, or audio ins and outs to dumb items. These would be a program, audio into the frame. A hot mic, audio into the frame. A stage announce, audio just headed out of the frame. And wait, can I stop real quick and say, I didn't mention anything about needing to interface a key panel in order to get this audio out in the stage announce example or the program or hot mics. Key panel is not required. You can actually tap into the audio and take it out of the frame and shoot it to an audio device like a speaker. Yes. Yes, and that will become more clear a little bit later, but I do want to say that for the first time here. A key panel is not required to get audio in or out of the matrix. But back into, here we are looking at two-wire sections is where we were. Two-wire sections, two-wire, intercoms don't speak two-wire. Matrix intercoms, I'll correct myself. Matrix intercoms do not speak two-wire. At their core, on the digital signal processing layer of fabric, they do not speak two-wire. Two-wire must be converted after the intercom fabric. Sometimes that two-wire converter is inside the box, so it feels like it, but I would say mentally just break that apart. Do not include two-wire in your intercom fabric thoughts. Once you're coming into and onto the fabric, you have gone through a four-wire port. Two-wire is not that thing. Other instances that let you get into the fabric utilizing a port would be four-wire interconnects. That might be radio. That might be a Unity intercom. Maybe you're coming out of your intercom Dante and going straight into a Dante virtual sound card and going into a Unity segment. This, as we are looking from the intercom fabric perspective, this is after a port. So segment this thought process into the fabric and what happens off the fabric on the other side of the port. So ports can be used with data and without data. And this is how it works for each person. It's pretty much as simple as that. Everything connects to the matrix. Why didn't you just say so, Rob? Connect everything to the matrix and boom, you're done. Well, yeah, that's true. That's actually what we're aiming for. But it is a little bit more complicated than that. Let's see what we got going on here. I have just come up with some examples. Audio sources, belt packs, radio relays, video camera CCUs, speakers, remote users, wireless key panels from different makers, wired key panels, MADI sources, Dante sources. And if this was a marketing video, I would just show you this graphic and say, it all just works. But it's not. We're going to talk about how it works. So let's back up just a little bit. We're trying to get everything onto the matrix so that we can do the matrix things that make up the rest of the videos that we're going to be seeing here. Yes, that's true. But I think we need to understand the building blocks a little bit more. And I think if you think of it more of a stack of gear instead of a magic box like this graphic shows, you will have a better understanding maybe of your intercom, because honestly, this does represent some products in the market today. You just plug it all into our box. And I'm not dogging on anything, but the Clearcom Arcadia is a bit of this type of thought process. The RTS OMS, or Odin Main Station, is a little bit of this. RTS Odin, also this. A magic box that takes everything and, oh, I should point that way. This, you take everything, you plug it in, and boom, you're on the fabric. Well, it's not that easy in all cases. And as you guys know, you can have a magic box that does something, but if you really want to scale that, it might become a stack of rack mount components instead. And that is where this is actually going. Card and frame type of a product. RTS makes frames, Clearcom makes frames, Riedel makes frames, and then they make cards that go inside them. So let's change from the marketing video, plug everything in, to this, which is our drawing pad, and we're going to kind of unpack this a little bit. I have drawn a 9x9. Actually, I ripped it out of the RTS manual. I just like their artwork. It's pretty cool. What we're actually going to talk about here and through the rest of the video series is using a 64 by 64 matrix. Units of 8 or 16 are very popular in intercoms. So 64 by 64 is a very reasonable sized intercom that will let you do some high level things on a lot of shows. So the fabric, the point is to get things onto the fabric, but it's a little bit more of a pathway than that. We normally have some I/O cards, some cards that slide into the frame that let you take signals and adopt them or pull them into the frame. I have just done some imaginary things here. There's nothing, I just made this all up, but this might be pretty typical. You have your first card is a 16 by 16 analog card, and then 16 by 16, 16 by 16, and 16 by 16. This is how we got to a fully populated 64 by 64 matrix. 16 inputs, or sorry, 64 inputs and 64 outputs. Matrices are always going to grow in a square. They're always going to be the same number over the same number. Nobody really does input-only cards or output-only cards, which would stretch it in one dimension or the other. It's possible to use ports only as an input, only as an output, but when you're sizing an intercom, it's going to be a square. Okay? So this is where we get into the idea of the standards. This is literally an analog audio input and output. Out of this port, out of the port that is on this card is going to be probably, just probably, a Ethernet cable, an RJ45 cable. And this is a cool cord cable that I make. You can buy them on Amazon or eBay. But this is pretty representative and indicative of what's going on. XLR audio in, XLR audio out. No digital to analog converter here. It's just copper. RJ45, native connector on the intercom to analog audio in and out. In or out. However you configure your intercom. So just a fun little example of the standards-based nature that this card is striving to go for. So this analog audio card right here is ready to bring analog audio in and out. And if you're using a matching data equipped surface like a KP, then there's data that flows along with that. Okay, Rob, okay, gotcha. Well, the next thing, the next color down here, very common today, Intercom's doing the same thing with Dante. Dante is a fully established workflow in media these days, and so Intercoms have followed suit, and they do Dante as well. In my Intercom here, we have a MADI card as well. I just made this up, remember? But the point is this Intercom proprietary key panels also will interface into your standards-based studio or production facility. So what next, Rob? Where do we go from here? We actually go to whatever the heck we want to do. I just came up with some imaginary sources. I found these little clip art logos to say we might have telephone interfaces. We might connect into CCUs for cameras. This could be from Panasonic, Hitachi, Grass Valley, Sony, Blackmagic. All of these cameras come out to a standard, and they can be hooked into the Intercom on those standards through these I/O cards and then back onto the fabric, right? This is how it actually works. I want you to use this mindset of proprietary within the Intercom to standards base to realize how much in the middle of everything this Intercom can sit. You might have, I don't know, I just chose a computer. You might have a Dante speaker connected straight to your Intercom, no key panel required. And that's a great use. You might have MADI sources from a Yamaha console with one of their little MADI cards, right? Point being, stuff goes onto the fabric through one of these I/O cards or through the magic of your Arcadia, your Odin main station, or something like that. It's nice to realize the workflow in detail before you just think of your Arcadia as being just a magic black box. Because we're trying to get a mindset that is set to design this stuff, expand this stuff, improve this stuff, and really understand what's going on. So we are aiming for this. Get everything onto the matrix. And then the next videos in this series are about how to use those sources and destinations by the key panel users and the other people attached to the Intercom. And so I invite you to move on down the chain and watch the next video. But hopefully this has been helpful, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. But this is ports as it relates to Intercom concepts. So have fun with the next one.